All right. And hello again, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's program. We're calling this the Jazz is Soundbite because right now in this episode, we're going to be talking about sound. You know, we're all at home, we're all digesting a lot of content, we're listening to a lot of music, watching a lot of movies, all in our headphones, our speakers. And us being, the jazz fans that we are, we want this music to sound the best it possibly can. So we are very, very lucky enough today to be joined by our very own Jazziz AV editor, Ian White, who is going to be talking to us about some new products from Meze Audio. Even better, we are going to be joined from two representatives from Meze Audio as they walk us through some new products and tell us about just what makes their headphones so great. They look beautiful. They sound even better. If you're at all serious about making your jazz, your music sound the best it possibly can, you are definitely going to want to check out Meze Audio. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our AV editor, Ian White. Ian, you there, man?
Good morning, Brian. Welcome from the Jersey Shore.
All right. Well, hey, I hope you're doing well over there. I see you're holed up.
At home.
With your Star Wars. That's right. We should mention it is May 4th, Star Wars Day, as in May the 4th be with you. And I understand you're quite a fan.
I am. It's embarrassing to my family that I own over 600 pieces of Star Wars memorabilia.
And some mighty fine headphones, I
do. Yes, yeah. Actually. It's a very interesting time in the, aside from obviously what's going on with COVID, especially here in the United States and all across Europe. The consumer electronic industry, this could not have happened at a worse time, specifically for this industry. 2019 was a banner year. Vinyl sales are still going up. Turntable sales had a great year in 2019. Streaming products, obviously. I mean, the number of streamers that are available in the marketplace now is literally in the dozens, and that's just on the high-end side. And then obviously just the interest in streaming. People who love jazz, I mean, they have so many opportunities now to listen to jazz in high res with Tidal and Qobuz, Amazon Music HD. It's really never been a better time to be a music listener. I mean, there's literally millions, just from jazz. I mean, literally almost anything you can think of that's on the jazz catalog, you can find on a streaming service. And obviously, wireless audio, wireless headphones, wireless speakers have become the thing. Even if you don't like to use Alexa or any of the voice-activated products, that's a thing in speakers. I mean, manufacturers are beginning to adopt that in great numbers. And so for the CE industry to have and in some ways, let's get the negative out of the way first. To have the bottom kind of fall out in the post-CES environment, was the worst possible time. It is very likely that there will not be another high-end audio consumer show in 2020, which for those of us who cover this industry, I've been writing about high-end audio for over 20 years, I guess as a side career. And the CES this year did fairly well. And then the last audio show I attended this year was the Can Jam in New York City in March. And really, that was the last time I had a chance to interact with our guests today from Meze Audio. And since then, almost every show has fallen by the wayside, sadly. The Montreal show was canceled. Munich was canceled. Expona, which is held in Chicago, was just canceled a few days ago. That was going to be held later this summer. So I guess what we're trying to do with this Jazziz Daily Brunch Soundbite series is allow the companies in the industry the opportunity to get their products out in front of music listeners, because retail stores are obviously closed in most of Europe, and they're definitely closed here in the United States. So, this is, I guess, from our perspective, the best way to get, great products in front of people who really care about sound. And one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have Meze Audio on, I guess this morning with us is that Meze is a fascinating story. As someone who is an Eastern European Jew, who grew up in Toronto and has lived in New Jersey for most of his life, I have deep roots in Eastern Europe. I've been to Poland many times. I have a lot of family and friends who are from the Czech Republic, from Hungary, from Romania. There were huge Jewish communities in all of those countries. Meze is a very unique company, because to think that in 2020, one of the leading high-end audio manufacturers of headphones would kind of come out of a small town in northwest Romania in Baia Mare, which is literally on the border of the Ukraine and Hungary, to have this small company that took a while to sort of come into existence. Antonio will get into it, but this is a brand that's been around for almost 9 years, but 2015 was sort of their coming out party. to have a small company take on the industry giants like the Sennheisers, the AKGs, the Sonys, the Boses of the world, and actually win. I mean, Meze Audio, really, from the perspective as a journalist and also as a customer, Meze's success is kind of remarkable. And I think the fact that you have a company that came out, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, the Iron Curtain came down in Eastern Europe, and all of a sudden you have all these talented engineers, guys who never had an opportunity to really show what they could do to the rest of the world because they were stuck in Romania and Hungary and at that point, I guess, Czechoslovakia and Poland. The fact now in 2020, some of the best audio products in the world are being manufactured in Eastern Europe. I mean, those of us who are in the industry, I mean, it is a growing list of companies like Meze, like Kuzma out of Slovenia, who makes some of the best turntables you can buy regardless of price. Brands like HID out of Hungary, Trafomatic, and there's so many Eastern European companies. I mean, most consumers won't know this, but the second biggest audio show in the world right now is actually in Warsaw. I mean, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that the second most important show in audio would be in Warsaw, Poland, Munich is by far the most important show. CES has lost its luster for the high-end audio world. But to have Warsaw suddenly emerge as where you have to go every fall to show your products is amazing. I mean, who would have imagined that Warsaw would become essentially the CES in a way of the high-end audio world? So it's really exciting to have companies like Meze, show up. I mean, I've known Antonio for a bit. Meze is a really interesting company, and I'm very excited to have them on today. They're definitely worth talking about.
Cool. Yeah, and the evidence is on your ears, man.
Yes.
The hardware looks great.
I am a hardcore.
Very nice. Well, as you mentioned, Antonio and Mircea from Meze are waiting in the wings. Let's go ahead and welcome them to the soundbite. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Happy Star Wars Day to you all.
Happy Star Wars Day.
May the 4th.
Is there such a thing? Is it official?
It is.
I guess so. In our book, it is.
In our book, it is.
Yeah.
So, guys, for our audience, Antonio Meze, who is on the bottom right of your screen, is actually the founder and lead product designer for Meze Audio. And Mircea Fanatin, if I pronounce your last name incorrectly, I apologize, is the managing director of Meze Audio. And they are based out of Baia Mare in northwest Romania. Yep. And so it's a pleasure to have you guys on. And Antonio, if you could sort of just give us a bit of a timeline. How did Meze start? Your background? I know you're an industrial designer. Where did Meze originate from?
Well, basically, it started with me tinkering with headphones. I was doing product design, working either for different agencies or directly for certain companies, and there's this limitation in the field of product design that is always related to marketing, timelines, budgets, and my strong belief that often very good product designers cannot actually do their best work, and that's because they're always limited by other factors, which are part of how companies work. You're always cut off when they say, okay, this is enough, the time is now, we have to put it out, and that's it. And probably once you have this happen a few times as a product designer, you work in that way to get things done, up to a certain requirement, and then it's out on the market, and it's not really in your hand. The decisions are not really in your hand as a product designer. And I think there are really a lot of good designers probably in many companies that are kind of not being used at the full potential, let's say. I thought, why not try to do my own product at first? And I was just tinkering with it, getting some parts. Right at the beginning, it was not at all an idea of creating a company. It was really just making something for myself because I was really into music and traveling a lot with my jobs, and I didn't have any headphone that I really felt like it's mine. It's mine in that sense that you pour your personality, you feel like you pour your personality and emotion in, and you feel like it's giving you something back. And I know how that feels with other objects. For example, I always give this example. I have a Stratocaster guitar, which I used to carry with me everywhere, and always when I look at it, I just want to pick it up. It kind of draws me to it. And also, the more I have it, the more I'm happy with it. And at the same time, because I was traveling so much, I always use headphones, but my headphones were always this impersonal black plastic headphone. And actually, I was using headphone a lot more than the guitar or the amplifier or anything else. So I really thought, that's strange. I mean, why isn't there such a thing? You know, there are a few brands back then. Maybe, you know, I remember Grado. You know, they have their own life. Maybe a few more models, some high-end stuff from Sony. But in general, I thought, okay, this is definitely something I want to contribute with. So I started doing my own thing, but making a new product is super expensive. So I was just taking parts, modifying them, created this logo, this name. I didn't think it will be a business, but somehow it took off. So I was not thinking, okay, I'm going to do a business and then, you know, the business will be headphones. I just did something and then somehow it took off and eventually it became a business in time. So this all started 2011. And by 2015, we managed to launch the 99 Classics, which took 2 years to develop, because around 2013, we saved up enough to invest in tooling. Tooling is very expensive for mass production, and also for a, you know, first run of manufacturing. And I just put in it everything I could, you know, at that time. No time limitation. It took 2 years. 2 years is a very long time. Normally for headphones is 6 months. That's the industry standard. So it was in a way wasteful and inefficient, but this allowed me to do so many iterations that in the end, the product came out as something more artful and special than you would normally find in the consumer market, let's say. We chose materials which were not necessarily that common, and the design itself, the shape evolved a lot over those 2 years. I remember at some point the design was almost ready for manufacturing, and then I was like, okay. And then it took another year of changing a lot of the parts and giving it that extra thing that it has today. And it does have a lot of symbolism in it. So for example, obviously this little swivel part is like a trumpet. This wood cup is shaped a bit like a bell. It has this S curve going down.
And those are the 99 Classics?
Yes, this is the 99 Classics. This is our first product that became very well received. Then there is this simple bands, but then there, you know, which some people call minimal, or, you know, it's not minimal, I would say, but yeah, it's simple. But then it's crowned here by this little detailed part, which is a structural part. This holds the headband together. But basically, this is the center of attention. It's where the tension of the design is, because everything else is symmetrical and somehow simple. It's a bit hard to hold this. Anyway, so yeah, basically, you see, even as I'm telling you the story, it's about the product. It's not about a big dream to become a manufacturer of headphones and to be successful. It was very much product-centered. So even today, our company, I would say, is very product-centered, product design and development-centered. It's not at all that we have a big strategy to get here and then to enter that market and so forth. We just want to make good products. That was the beginning, and that's still happening now. So yeah, 2011, messing around, doing some headphones, which now looking back, I think were ridiculous. And then 2015, when we came out with this, which it was the best we could at that time, and I think it's a good product. But looking back now, I already can see how I could do so many things differently. And then end of 2018 is when we launched the Imperium, which is our current flagship headphone.
So one of the big things that has changed in the consumer audio world, especially in high-end audio, is that, you know, up until the last decade, high-performance headphones were really not a big category. You had 4 or 5 companies that sort of dominated. You had Sony and Bose and Sennheiser and AKG. And then, with the growth of Headfi.com, which is, I guess, at this point, the world's largest headphone site, and the emergence of their CanJam series. And for Jazziz readers and listeners, the CanJam series is sort of a mini CES for, I guess, high performance headphones that grew out of Southern California. It started in Orange County, and then it has kind of grown over the last 5 or 6 years to be in London, in Singapore, New York City, which is ironically the last show where I saw, any manufacturer in this industry, back in March. But I guess one of the things that has made, I think, your company unique is that you came around at a time where there was like this ascendance of both, I guess, product quality as planar magnetic headphones became a category, but also price. And I know that, like, within the press, one of the things that a lot of us talked about kind of quietly behind the scenes was that, we loved the way that, planar magnetic headphones sound, how electrostatic headphones sound, how the performance bar kind of went from here to here very quickly, but so did the pricing. And Meze kind of showed up at a time where, people were starting to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a pair of headphones, which was really unheard of, in 2015. There were very few people used to spending that kind of money on headphones. And, and you show up at CES with these, $300, dynamic headphones that look like, they cost $2,000 or $3,000. And then you started telling everybody at the show, oh, by the way, these are $300. And I think, that has been, in many ways part of your success. And, if Mircea could kind of address this, the fact that you guys have from the very beginning taken a sort of a value approach. You kind of made sure that we'll keep the Imperium aside for a second, but you guys have always approached the headphone space with a performance plus value kind of message, because you very easily could have jumped into this category and sold $3,000 and $4,000, $5,000 headphones and been like everybody else. Instead, you said, let's offer really high-end headphones that people can actually afford. So I'm curious how you kind of came up with that strategy and how you've been able to kind of maintain it now for 5 years.
I think back then we were not really that aware of how the market is and how the pricing is being calculated, the end price of a product. So we knew that it's a very good value, but at the same time, we didn't really knew the cost of running a business and the cost of distributing a product. So if we would have followed the industry standard recipe for a recipe for making the price, maybe the headphone should have cost twice as much or so. So right now we're selling it, it's doing well, but we're not maybe the most profitable business with the 99 Classics. So we wanted to bring value to the customer, but we also were a bit naive about how it should be made.
Yeah, that was our business experience.
Not really business, but
as low as possible, and then realized it was too low. But it's okay, it's working, and it really built our reputation. And I think that's why people consider it such a good value product, because actually the margin is pretty small, and actually products which cost this much in the market cost half to make usually. But anyway, I think it is possible to offer a lot to customers if you choose wisely what you give and not add in a lot of things they don't need. So
what were some of the biggest challenges you guys had starting a headphone company out of Romania? Because Eastern Europe is obviously from an audio perspective, until the last 10 years, it was not known as a hotbed of high-end audio. Western European countries, especially the United Kingdom, Germany, France. I mean, you guys kind of have come out of. I want to say you've come out of nowhere, but I mean, Eastern European companies like Meze are now making some of the best products in the marketplace. I mean, you guys have obviously put a lot of thought into the design of your products, but also on the technical side. When I attend hi-fi shows, a lot of the questions I hear from people that I meet at the shows are, oh, do you know where this company is and that company is? And 9 times out of 10, it's companies that are coming out of Eastern Europe. So obviously, you guys in Romania and Poland and Bulgaria and Slovenia and the Czech Republic and Poland are doing something right. But what were some of the challenges that you guys face entering the market coming out of Eastern Europe?
I didn't feel like there was a lot of challenges. I mean, to be honest, I kind of just went for it, and it grew one step at a time. If you really want to look into it, you will find a lot of challenges and difficulties, but there's, this is in everything. I wouldn't be able to name something specific. We were always very careful to be self-sufficient, to not borrow money, right? Like,
yeah.
And just do everything in-house, from website to graphics to product design, engineering, prototyping, as much as possible in-house. And I think we were very resourceful. The fact that I'm a product designer means we were able to internally decide ahead of everything how to use the materials, what not to use, what technologies. And I think, in a way, being from Romania could have been also an advantage. The fact that there's no such industry here, and in our, naivete, we were able to make something without the fear that it will not work. Because maybe if you're there in the middle of everything and you see, a few companies succeeding, a few companies failing, you start to worry, then you might not do something, or you might do it in a different way. I think we didn't do it the conventional way, and maybe that's why it worked. So we did it without big plans. I think, in a way, I see now there's this huge startup movement where everybody wants to be big, everybody wants to make it, and this is everywhere. I hear it also in Romania, in some startup communities, and always on the internet from around the world. But the idea to just make something good and then see how it works, I don't find it so often. And for us, this worked. So
right.
Again, product-centered business.
Yeah. And the quality of those products and the ingenuity of those products certainly speak for themselves. I understand you have some products on hand, and we have some pictures to show. If you wouldn't mind, could you walk us through some of those products and maybe talk about the specs? I know people are very, very interested.
Yeah.
Jeff? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, you want to pull up a product here? Beautiful. And so these, again, are the 99 classics?
Yeah. So this is walnut wood, CNC. The machining takes a lot of time. Then it's hand polished and, satin lacquered, treated. The hardware parts are zinc with PVD plating, metallic plating, and the rest. So basically what you see is wood, some zinc. The headband is manganese spring steel, and then the soft cushion parts. It's a dynamic headphone with a warmish sound. Very well received, probably because it has a good balance between how people feel when they look at it, how people feel when they use it, and it somehow, I think, touches a soft spot for many people. So I think we were lucky to somehow guess what people would like. I'm pretty happy with this one, for sure.
And as a jazz fan, Ian, you listen to music through these.
I do.
The auditory experience as a jazz fan.
So there's 3 things I really like about these headphones. Number one, the weight. High-end audio headphones have become like wearing suitcases in the last 5 years. I think that's been a big negative. As the technology has improved, so has the weight. And unfortunately, no one wants to sit with a massive suitcase on their head sitting on a train, in New York and New Jersey. The classic 99s are unbelievably light. So if you're looking for something to take on a train with you, to travel with in an airport, to sit in an office, because they are a closed back headphone, so you don't have to worry about the sound leaking out. The weight and the way that they're designed. I mean, I have a huge head, and these headphones fit beautifully. From a tonal balance point of view, I think what makes these headphones work so well is that they're very even. There's a really nice balance between sort of the mid-range resolution. Jazz fans will love the fact that these headphones can really put some nice air on horns. Drums have like this nice kind of airiness to them, as sort of cymbals, kind of like the decay of notes kind of just trails off. These headphones do them really well. And these headphones have really strong bass, but like tight bass. So whether you listen to jazz or rock or even electronica, these headphones are a very balanced sound. And the third reason why I like them, and I applaud Meze for doing this, they are very easy to drive. One of the criticisms of a lot of the newer, I guess, high-end headphones is that they require a lot of power. And if Jeff can just kind of zero in on me for 1 second, and we'll go back to Antonio. One of the things that has really changed in personal audio in the last couple of years is the fact that consumers have moved to products like this. The Dragonfly series from AudioQuest, which is a headphone amp DAC, which you can connect to your computer. Things like the Zdella, which is from a company called Zorlo, and it's essentially a MQA DAC you plug into your iPhone or Android phone. And then little desktop headphone amplifiers like the Shit Audio Magni 3, which is made in California. All of these have the ability to drive the Classic 99 like really well. And I think for the average person who's looking for a pair of great sounding headphones, they're going to plug these into their smartphone. And the smartphone has to have the ability to drive these properly. And I think that's what makes the Classic 99s a very ideal product for a lot of consumers. They're very easy to drive. And Antonio, back to you on that front.
We've definitely thought, there's many criteria which are very important besides the sound factor. So I'm not going to talk about sound because that's, obvious when you talk about high-end headphones. You want to be free, right? You don't want to be tied down to certain things. If you use headphones that have the capacity to be taken around, then definitely you want them to be able to work with anything. Even our high-end headphone, the Imperium, actually it works from a smartphone. You should not use it with a smartphone, but it works. I mean, the impedance and the efficiency is there. It's enough.
So let's get into the Imperium, because the Imperium is it's a statement level product, and I'll keep my, I guess, listening impressions to a later date, because I will be doing a review later in 2020 on these. But having used them quite a few times, there's so many interesting things about this headphone, just from an industrial design point of view. I'm married to an industrial designer, and I remember the first time I showed her these, she looked at me, she's like, finally, somebody actually understands design. I think, 20 years of going to hi-fi shows has jaded her to the point that, she thinks that everything looks the same. And she was kind of really amazed by the design features of this headphone. And aside from the sound, which I care about more than I think she does, could you walk us through how you came up with the Imperium? Because it's really a really interesting technical, design, the way you did it.
The decision to make Imperium came pretty fast. We met the owner of a company called Rinaro from Ukraine, and they had this interesting technology, which we thought, okay, this is our chance to make a hyper headphone. So basically, from the start, this is a cooperation with Rinaro from Ukraine. And then, I don't know, maybe 2 months later, one night I just drew it, and I made some simple basic shape in SolidWorks, and then that was it. So the whole decision to make it was very natural, because every designer, everybody always dreams of making a hyper something, hyper watch, hyper car, whatever, where there's no limitation. So it was easy to decide to do it. And then, all it took is just to do our best, which took 2 years to fine tune everything. So for example, starting from the top, I have here with me carbon, right? Carbon fiber headbands. I have here some of the prototypes. These are, I don't know how many are here, but in total, we made around 56 different versions to fine tune the strength and the elasticity and, how it behaves on the head. The headphone is essentially a soft product. I think maybe this is one thing that many designers don't understand. Sometimes random agencies are commissioned to design a headphone for a headphone company, and before they didn't design headphone, and now they do their first headphone. Well, I think to design a headphone, you need a lot of experience in designing headphone first. It's a very tricky product with its own particularities. It's very 3D. You design it in some way, but on the head, then it sits in a different way. You know what I mean? Kind of like clothes. So you really have to have a feeling for it. If I'm now commissioned to design clothes, I will probably not do a good job on the first, second, third, fourth run. You really need to have a feel of how this thing will behave when it's stretched, when it's adjusted to your head size and all that. So the whole structure is thought out like that. So carbon fiber headband, and then coming down we have this. This is a little invention of ours. It's a spring steel insertion here in the leather, which basically brings this leather in contact with your head down here. On typical headphone, the band touches the head and then it comes down like that, right? And what we did, we basically pushed it in like this. That means the contact surface is bigger, 3 times bigger than on a leather headband without this type of spring steel insertion. And basically that means it distributes the weight. So no matter what the weight is, you will feel much less of it, right? Cushioned ear pads, these have a big contact surface. All the contact points, which is the headband and the ear pads, are essential for how your experience with the headphone will be. And that plays a huge role because headphones, are meant to be used for a long time. I think if you're talking high-end headphone, you could be using them for hours, many hours. Right. Some people use it for 5-6 hours. I sometimes used to use it like that before I had such headphones, actually. And I remember it hurts, ears, fatigue, pressure points. It's pretty annoying. You just want to be with the music, right? So I want the headphone to be impressive and spectacular, and I want you to feel it when you look at it, to be attracted to it, like I used to be like I'm still am to my guitar. But once you put it on, I don't want you to think about the headphone anymore. Once you put it on, the headphone should disappear. So I'm quite happy because a lot of the feedback regarding these headphones is that it's super comfortable and the ergonomics are spot on. So yeah, I think it's very important. So basically we try to use high-end materials which allow us to do what we want. This entire chassis is a CNC'd aluminum. We call it the aluminum skeleton. Maybe I have here another version. Here is the CNC'd part. Maybe it's a bit hard to see that. It doesn't zoom on it. But anyway, there's pictures on our website for who's curious. Each single part is made out of a block of aluminum. This allows us to shave off as much as we want. And in the end, we have just the amount of aluminum we need, for the strength. And the result is it sits well on your head. It's got this interesting ear pads, which you can remove, where this ferromagnetic mesh actually attaches to the magnets of the driver itself, which are in there. So there's no extra mounting magnets. That actually works with the driver together. So the ear pad mesh is a critical component of how this headphone functions. The Renaro driver inside, which has a hybrid array coil. So it has this spiraling coil and this switchback on top. So each section gives out different frequency response slightly. So this is optimized for getting the higher frequency sounds more directly into the ear canal. This is pretty much it. We just poured our everything in it and it came out well. I think it's a very simple recipe. And I see this sometimes in some small makers of different products, people who are not efficient, they cannot go into mass market. They cannot maybe, take a big slice of the pie, but they make something really, really great and they touch people's hearts, and then some people will really like it, and that's fine. I think this is more important than just making big business, big sales.
Well, I mean, from an industry perspective, I mean, in the last 2 years, I don't think there's been a headphone that has received sort of as many best of as the Imperium. I know, I mean, as a journalist, but also just sort of a quick look through your website, it seems like the Imperium has almost won Best Headphone of the Year from almost every specialist hi-fi magazine on the planet. So I mean, so kudos obviously to everyone at the team in Romania. You know, you've obviously, I guess, developed a product that both customers and the industry consider to be essentially like a best in class. You know, so that's a testament to the work that you guys have done. You guys also make two very interesting IEM earphones, and IEM is an in-ear monitor for those who don't know what the acronym means. You have two really interesting products that are, one is a lot more affordable. I believe the Rhea Solo is about $250 US, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Penta, which is like your flagship IEM, is, you know, it's definitely up there in the $1,000 range. Could you actually kind of give us a little bit of a run through on your two IEMs, because they're very interesting in terms of their design?
Yeah, we've been wanting to do some special IEMs for many years already. I mean, during this whole time we were doing headphone, we were also playing around with earphones. It just took a really, really long time to refine the shape and find something that I thought was, you know, really, really ergonomic and special and everything. So there's this shell design, which the Penta and the Solo kind of share. It's not the same design; they're different, but it's the same design language. And then basically we tried to do a lineup, but it takes a very long time, you see. So actually, the Penta came out before the Solo, although the Solo was started earlier. I was telling you about our very long product development times. So the Penta has 5 drivers. 1 dynamic and 4 BAs. The housing is all CNC'd from aluminum, and what's very interesting about it, it has the sound channels are milled from aluminum, which means they are always the same dimension, the same length on left and right, and on every single piece. A lot of high-end IEMs use this kind of tube, these kind of plastic tubes, to connect the BA drivers to the nozzle, which goes to your ear. And they're different lengths, and that can create some slight phase issues. So this is one thing about it. Basically, I think it's a very comfortable IEM, and I think that's most important thing. You can use it for a very long time. It has a quite balanced sound, again, a little bit warmish, very, very ergonomic sound, I could say. So the idea of comfort for us runs from product design and engineering all the way to sound. Our house signature leans towards a sound that is not fatiguing, a sound that you can enjoy for, like I said, 5-6 hours. I really think that people who end up buying this kind of products, they actually use the products for such long times, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. So we always want to make sure that your long-term experience is good. If you pick up a pair of headphones, they might, you know, some of them might give you a strong impression and impact on first listening, but then when you take them home, they might be fatiguing. You cannot tell how a headphone or earphone will work by doing just a short listening test, like, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 15 minutes, because in real life, your ears adapt to the natural signature, the sound signature of a product, of a headphone. What your ear doesn't adapt to is things that tire it, you know, like some muddiness or some high-pitched, annoying frequencies, or some discomfort, some pressure in your ear. So those are actually the things that you have to look at. So that's one of the core criteria for us. And the more affordable earphone, the Rai Solo. Rai means heaven, actually. Solo is because it has 1 driver. Basically, it's a MIM housing, which took us forever to develop. MIM is metal injection molding. It's a sintering process to create really precise steel parts. And it has a very interesting dynamic driver, which has a membrane which is split in 2 parts. We eliminated the lead wires, which come from the coil, because the lead wires usually are glued on one side of the membrane, thus making the membrane move in a rocking way because of their weight being on one side. And basically, the membrane itself is metallized with minus the middle section. So now you have the two sides of the membrane actually transmitting the electricity between the coil and the lead wires that go to your source. So now you have a more pistonic motion. There's a little video on our website that shows the principle of working. I kind of rambled all over. Mircea, is there anything?
Yeah, actually, so I do have a couple questions for him. Number one, who is the typical Meze customer? Because one of the things that has been really interesting about the high-end headphone experience so far is that it has brought younger blood into the industry for the first time in a very long time. And as someone who just turned, 50 years old, like about a month ago, I've been an audiophile since I was 12. And I guess one of the biggest complaints, I guess, in my lifetime as both an audiophile and I guess AV journalist, is that young people have never really been engaged in the way that they are now because of personal audio. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if you're finding that the typical Meze customer is a younger man or woman who really love music, are not necessarily audio geeks, audiophiles. They've never really been interested in, I guess, in expensive audio, but they look at your headphones as like an aspirational way to kind of get into better sound quality at an affordable price.
I think there's two categories here. First is the knowledgeable headfire who maybe saw that this is a product which finally not only sounds good, which all headphones should sound good in this category, but also has a lot of attention to build quality and design. So maybe some consider that this is finally a product that touches all bases. And then on the other hand, you might have the people who want something good. They're not necessarily very experienced in headphones, but if they can afford it, they want something that is really premium. And then this headphone, you might not be able to tell that it's better than another one, let's say, but then when you look at it, I think it's very obvious to appreciate the precision of the build and of the finish. And then you just have that joy, which you have when I don't have, but I guess if you own a super car, you're not a race driver, but or a luxury car, which I also don't have, but I guess you would really enjoy it, even though you're not driving to its full capacity or something.
Right.
I don't know. Mircea knows actually more about this. He interacts a lot more than me with.
Yeah, I think you touched the right basis. I mean, we have the audiophiles which appreciate sound most, and then of course they are able to understand and they appreciate the rest of the build and how we approached the headphones. But then you have people which really are not specialists. They just trust their local dealer, or somehow they find out about our products, and they are pretty fast. I like to think that they fall in love with the product, they fall in love with the company, and for them it's like indulging themselves. I want something nice for me. I want something that I really can show to my wife and she can understand it. So the fact that we touch maybe more senses than the typical headphone. Once you have it in your hand, it's pretty clear that it's more special and it's not just about the sound.
And I think in this second case we were mentioning, I think it has the capacity to draw in, what will become future maniacs or fans. Because I think if you start off with a product which is really, really special in its category, whatever that product is, you have a pretty good chance of becoming, interested in that category, right? I mean, if you start off with a crappy product, you might think it's not worth your time to, in general,
right?
You need to get excited. It's like learning to play guitar on a bad guitar. You might just drop it at some point. It just doesn't sound nice. If it always falls out of tune, it's annoying. Your progress will be slow. So
where do you guys see this segment going in the future? Because on the one hand, obviously, I mean, streaming is at this point almost 85% of the way music is delivered, in both the United States and Europe for sure. I mean, between Tidal and Qobuz and Amazon HD and Spotify, I mean, vinyl has had a nice comeback, but at the end of the day, I mean, people use their smart devices, whether it's a laptop, a smartphone, or a tablet at this point, to get their music 95% of the time. Where do you guys see sort of, I guess, your products evolving as the technology has improved in terms of the future, in terms of how that's going to impact the type of headphones that you deliver to people going forward?
Well, it's true. Most of our customers, most users, they are tempted now to stream and to be very portable, to listen to music everywhere. So Bluetooth and true wireless earphones, headphones are the norm now. The technology is not yet fully evolved. It's not yet fully stable. So because we're a small company and we cannot really invest in the best technology every 6 months when it comes to chipsets and all the electronics, we will wait for a while until the technology seems to be reaching maturity, let's say. And that's the point where we think we will approach the true wireless and Bluetooth categories. But for now, it's going to be wired because I think we're doing a pretty good job, and we don't have the distribution network. We don't have the capacity to fight with the big players like Sony, like Bose, like Beats. So there are people who can do it better than us in that category. So I don't think it makes sense to fight with them. But it's good for the consumer that they are more and more people listen to music on headphones. Once they buy the first set of, let's say, Beats, then they need to upgrade to something, and hopefully that can be one of our products or one of there's a lot of good products out there. So
yeah,
there's
definitely
going to be a new client willing to try something else.
So
I think yeah, go on.
go ahead. So I was going to ask you guys two non-headphone related questions. What music have you guys been listening to? I know that Romania has actually had to deal with COVID, as far as Eastern Europe is concerned. You guys have had a fair number of cases, as has Poland. So what have you guys been listening to at home? And also, what do you miss the most about, being locked up in quarantine like the rest of us here in the United States, especially myself in New Jersey, where I feel like I haven't been outside very much in the last 6 weeks. What do you miss the most about your daily life in Baia Mare?
I think riding bicycles, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think we miss the most. Yeah, I think so.
Well, it was not too bad. We do go out a bit. The mountains are right here. The forest.
Yeah, but it's not really.
I missed a little bit the trade shows, to be honest. I get a very good vibe and a good energy when I go to Can Jams, when I go to the Japan shows. Because you mentioned earlier, the Can Jams is actually a very big component of what we are today. And, I really want to mention that the reason we exist, I think, is because this community exists. We didn't make headphones because of things that happen in the mass market. We made this because we found this community, and it just has people who care, like genuinely care. For example, last time I was at at a Can Jam, I met Jude Mansilla, who is the founder of Headfi.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and I was telling him, I don't know, he mentioned something like, okay, great, good products, I'm happy for you. And I was like, Jude, I really don't know how we even got here, and I really don't know if we're doing it right. And I really don't, I was kind of doubting a lot of the things we do because it's my character. But he was like, so do you like hard book cover or the other one, the song? Like what? Hard book cover. And then at the next show he got me this book, Rework. It's I'm not advertising the book, but it's really interesting. So we talked, and he really cared, and then he got me this book, which when I read through it basically, the book tells you that there's a lot of different ways to approach a business, and a lot of the conventional ways of doing it are actually not correct. And now I can see it. Reading this book really eased my mind. So having somebody who's in this business he's not really doing anything else than just creating the community and the space for makers to come and interact and show the public and all that. but actually this is a lot. I mean, this creates the context for companies like ours and others to exist. So without him, without Tyle Hertens, who used to be at Inner Fidelity, I think our niche, our category would not look like it does today at all. And back to the other thing you were saying earlier, this is a really fun category to be in. You know, I don't necessarily want to go in the mass market game, in the consumer game. That's a different playground. Maybe that's not even a playground. Maybe that's a war zone. Because in this field, if I'm missing to go to the trade shows and seeing these people, which every time it feels like a reunion with some members of a family or, you know, like friends, that means it's real, you know, there's real connection, and that's really nice. So regarding future products, I'm happy to keep doing headphones for this category because I understand them and they understand us, and I think we care for each other in it. You know, it's not about making the big money, the big business. It's about pushing forward our passion, and that's just nice, you know.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate you, you know, chatting with us.
Yeah.
And we're happy to help, you know, share these products with the world because, you know, I think after watching this video, people are definitely going to be interested in them. If people wanted to, you know, watch the videos you mentioned, if they wanted to learn more about the products, what's the best place for them to do that? I
guess our website.
Okay.
There's a lot of pictures and schematics and videos, links to our YouTube channel showing the technologies and all that. So, yeah. All right, mezeaudio.com.
Well, thank you again for joining us. We've reached the kind of end of our little brunch here. But Antonio, Mircea, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stay safe out there. You know, keep doing great work. And, you know, you never answer that question. What kind of music are you listening to when you're...
Yeah.
I'm curious. You've got the Stratocaster.
Okay. So I designed the 99 classics, listening to a lot of Tom Waits,
all right,
Leonard Cohen, John Frusciante, a lot of stuff, Cuban bossa nova,
cool,
Regina Spektor, different things. Sometimes even some heavy music, all kinds of metal. You know, it's good to shake up and change the mood. And the Imperium was designed on tunes like Kruang Bin, if you know this band, Grimes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, these are the ones that come to my mind, but there's a lot more, I'm sure.
Very cool. Very cool.
These came to my mind. I guess they're significant now.
Antonio, before we sign off, man, I wondered if you could show us that you got a celebrity fan in Darth Vader, this being Star Wars Day.
Yeah, talking about community, right? So we go to Moscow to visit a dealer there. It's called Dr. Head, and they made this
very cool
stand, right? Solid wood headphone stands. They make them actually, and they gifted us this guy. We got to choose between this, John Lennon, and what was the other one?
I don't remember. I wasn't there.
It was a bear. A big bear.
You made the right choice.
Yeah, you made the right choice.
Yeah, so very cool. Solid wood. I think it's also walnut. I'm not sure. And here you get a glimpse at the future thing that will be. That's it.
Okay, all right, man. We'll stay tuned for that as well. Antonio.
It's ongoing.
Mircea, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank you, guys.
program. We really, really appreciate it. We're going to see you backstage. We'll sign off with you, and then we'll say goodbye to everyone watching at home. But thank you, sincerely.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Have a good night. All right, Ian. Very cool, man. You know, like I say, you can testify.
Oh yeah, no, they're a fascinating company. I mean, to come out of Romania, you know, they literally showed up at CES in 2015 and started walking into competitors' rooms and like other headphone exhibits and just started passing these things out. And the press just started listening to these things and going, "Who are you guys?" And then we listened to the headphones after hours, and we were all like, "How much are these headphones?" And they were like $300. We all kind of looked at each other like, these guys might be onto something.
You're onto something.
Yeah. And also, we have a more detailed explanation of the Imperium in our buyer's guide, actually on Jazziz.com. If you go into the AV section, there is actually a buyer's guide for headphones. and the Imperium is listed in the bottom of the article. There's a pretty detailed explanation of the headphone and what it sounds like.
That's absolutely right. Now, let's say someone were to go, a Jazziz reader were to go out and buy, the 99 Classics or the Imperium. They bring them home. They're excited. We talk a lot about test albums to really test, the audio quality of a headphone. As a jazz fan, what do you spin, Ian, when you've got?
Let's see. So I would say a mixture of Eric Dolphy, McCoy Tyner, definitely a lot of Miles. John Coltrane's, actually, I'm not going to go with Coltrane because every Coltrane album has been listed in every audiophile magazine, ever published. But Eric Dolphy's a good, any kind of Dolphy is good. Grant Green sounds really good on these headphones.
Player. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Wes Montgomery also sounds pretty amazing on these headphones.
There, as if you needed another excuse to spin more Grant Green or Wes Montgomery.
Absolutely. A
new pair of Meze audio headphones may be the way to do it. Anyway, Ian, thank you again for joining me on today's brunch. We're going to do more of these. So,
yes, we are.
If you're watching online, let us know who you might want to talk to, who you want to see, because Ian's our guy, and we're going to be getting more and more into the AV game as things go on. So, Ian, I appreciate it on this Star Wars day. Be safe out there. Take care. And
may the force be with you.
And may the force be with you. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.